What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Twink Revolution. I'm Sam.
And I'm Gian.
And it's episode 50, and we're here with special guest River Page, or on Twitter, better known as Lefty Otter. They're a Texas-born gay brosalist. I can't say that. Comedian and writer, including for the new twinkrev.com online magazine. Welcome, River.
Hey boys, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, we're delighted to have River here to celebrate episode 50. Sorry if my lack of enthusiasm, if you hear it, is not my lack of excitement about River being here. I feel like shit. I think I got the Rona. Or lack of alcohol or something. I don't know what it is. So River wrote just recently. River's written more than one thing for us, but recently came out with an article that was very timely for Father's Day, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Platform Capitalism, and the False Promise of Self-Liberation. And it's a really cool piece that talks a little bit about the Robert Kiyosaki self-help book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is, one of the best-selling works of sort of financial advice and self-help. And it's a really neat piece, kind of tracking that, and I guess its use as a metaphor for the ways in which we're ineffective at talking about exploitation to regular ass people, right? Is that fair to say, River?
Yeah, it's about how, leftists are really bad at talking to, like the quote unquote normies about capitalism. But it's also about like how, there is like, I feel like it's sort of like a proof that there is like sort of a innate desire for people to like, escape wage slavery and like consumerism, and like it's created a market. Like the desire to leave the market has created a market, which is pretty ironic. But I mean, if Robert Kiyosaki is able to sell, what is it, like 37 million copies or something like that?
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's a yearning to break out of what he calls the rat race, which is basically just like wage slavery.
And you kind of draw a few kind of comparisons and allusions to other sort of forms of escape that are offered from the rat race, right? In terms of, you mentioned some of the like multi-level marketing schemes that are like, be your own boss. You no longer have to do the shitty things that everyone else has to do to survive. Do this other shitty thing.
Yeah, it's all like, well, there's like sort of like two different types, right? Like there's the like be your own boss sort of thing, where it's sort of like implied that you're still actually going to have to do labor that like maybe isn't like glamorous or whatever. So like that's like Uber and Lyft, DoorDash, all of that, which a lot of people like, do those things and like don't have any illusions that about it. They're just like, this is an easy way to make extra money. But it was sort of marketed, especially in the beginning, as like, no more bosses, you're in control. This is like your own business or whatever. And it's the same thing with like multi-level marketing schemes. And the interesting thing about multi-level marketing schemes is they also, a lot of them that I looked up, like they use like the language of like family and community. And they have like these like parties where like people get together and sell shit, or like it's just people selling like Tupperware to each other or whatever, like because like they don't like actually have like an actual like community, of any kind, and like they don't even go to a regular workplace. It's so, people are actually, it's kind of like a double thing. Like they're trying to get out of wage slavery, but also like they just want friends. And then the sort of like second sort of tier, I guess, of this whole thing is like more of like the creative economy, I guess. So you think about like, YouTube, and OnlyFans. If that, I mean, people get creative on OnlyFans. That's a
yeah.
creative. Yeah. You know, the world of Instagram influencers, TikTok celebrities, you know, like stuff like that, where it's like not only like do you not have to answer to a boss and like you can make all this passive income, just you know by producing one or two things and then just you know watching the money rake in. But it's also like you know the sort of like the allure of minor celebrity, and I think like most people like don't actually like the thing with like Lyft, for instance, or Uber is like nobody's under any illusion when they get into that they're going to be like a millionaire.
Right.
But like some people do like get YouTube channels and like become millionaires. So they can like actually like hold up a couple of success stories and be like, oh look, well they did it, so why can't you? So there are differences, but like they're all selling the same thing, which is like an escape. It's not a way out of capitalism. It's a way to sort of transcend it by getting out of your like proletarian status.
Well, this is there was I think it was Hulu or Netflix or something produced this fuck, I can't remember the name of the documentary now, about some like incredibly sad kid. He was probably, I want to say 16 years old or something, and lived in like rural Tennessee with a, you know, just shitty broken home. And it was about him striving to become I think like Instagram famous and go join up one of those like Cameron Dallas meet and greet style tours or some shit. And it was just it's one of the grimmest things I've ever seen, because you know he's you know gets sort of mobbed by preteens or whatever when he goes out to his local shopping mall. But this is his entire life, and it is sort of what he regards as his only shot out of just an existence that is kind of without joy or meaning or any hope of it getting any better. Like I think he's like sleeping on a couch and then taking all these sort of glamour shots on Instagram of like, oh my god, you know, hashtag best life. It's fucking grim, and so this is sort of the false promises bit, right? Is that like these platforms are not just selling the promise of a sort of economic liberation from a boss. It's also that you might this might be your only ticket out of your lot in life, or your sort of the position you find yourself born into, right?
Right. Yeah. And sort of the lore of like tech platform, like fame and minor celebrity. It does like sort of target people from like these like small towns and like working class backgrounds, where if you're just like a random hot person, you know, like in your small shitty town, like you can like try to make something of yourself and get out. Like I knew a girl who I grew up with. I didn't really grow up with her. I kind of grew up with her sister. She was a little bit older than us, but she was able to like leverage her Instagram career into like becoming a model, and she lives in New York now, and she's like pretty well known in that world. But she looks just like a completely different person than when we grew up. And I remember I saw her and her sister. I was back home visiting my parents, and she was back home visiting her parents, and like I ran into her and her sister at the store, and like it was just I only recognized her because she was with her sister, not just because of like her like appearance or whatever. It was just like the way she talked and like presented herself, and like her accent was completely gone. Which I mean, I think that's kind of, you know, my accent sort of like fades in now. You know, because I remember like when I first started, like would like laugh at me and shit. I don't know. Like I really did sound like a little hillbilly, but yeah, I mean, it definitely changes people, and it's definitely. I mean, she's a success story, right? But I mean, there's all these other people who are pinning all their hopes and dreams on just like hopefully being attractive enough or having like some sort of like unique quality that's going to make them marketable, so they don't just have to like work a regular job. And it's always, it's always going to be a buyer's game. Like there's always, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It's mostly up to chance and like your connections and all that, just like the rest of the market, just like the rest of capitalism.
Yeah, I definitely think with the Gen Z years, because I know my day everyone wanted to be like firefighters or like doctors. Now they're like, I want to be like an Instagram star or a YouTube star. And I find it kind of worrying that the careers they're choosing are the ones that are the most alienating and focused on like you as the product, or fancy like marketing scheme or multi-level marketing schemes where the whole goal is using your friends and family as like exploited labor to build upon them. It's all careers that destroy solidarity among the working class or promote exploitation. I always hear YouTubers be like, oh, everyone's two-faced. They'll say one thing to you and do another. And it's like, oh, this is a horrible future we're going towards.
Yeah, start a podcast and exploit your friends like a normal person. Weirdos.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's okay to have like creative hobbies, and it's like fine to even like want to make a living for them, but it's just like, I don't know, it just like people like project it and shit, and like they enlist their family members, like, those like 8-year-olds that make like $500,000 a year, like opening Amazon boxes or whatever. Like their parents have like that's child labor in like some abstract sense, I think. But like, yeah, I mean, you could write a whole series of articles on just the insane consumerism of a culture where like kids watch other kids open Amazon boxes. Like it's very dark. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from.
So you mentioned a little bit about you've grown up in some small towns. You're you are a lefty otter. What's what was sort of your introduction to this way of thinking about politics in general? Like, I mean, how did you get here? Because obviously, I assume you are, like many, surrounded by a bunch of people who don't think this way about the political world.
Well, like I grew up, like my parents were really religious. My mom was like the daughter of like a Baptist preacher, and then she got pregnant when she was like 16, and then again when she was 18, and then she like, I don't know, married like this trucker who's like my stepdad, and like quote unquote like got her life straight. And so we were raised like really, really religious. And like as far as politics go, we're basically taught to only care about like 3 things, which were like gay marriage should be illegal, abortion should be illegal, and like we need to start a race war between the Jews and the Palestinians so that Jesus can come back. So like just not like when I was like, I don't know, 15 or whatever, I was like, oh shit, like I'm gay, like this whole religion thing's not gonna work out for me so well. And so like, but when you're raised like in such a devout religion like that, I mean, we went to church 3 days a week, like, or not 3 days, 3 times a week. Like we went Sunday morning, Sunday night, we went Wednesdays, usually every other weekend there's like something that we were like doing. And so like it's when you're raised like that, like you are used to seeing the world through a sort of like through a framework, I guess. Like you see the world like through a lens where like, everything is supposed to fit together and make sense. And, it's a way of like explaining how things work to yourself. And I think that like, after I like stopped believing in God and all that, I was like, well, I need to like explain the world to myself. And so I sort of like got into philosophy and then politics after that. And I don't remember being like 17 or 18 and reading the Communist Manifesto and just being like, oh yeah, that makes sense. um, you know, like, and it's not like, you know, there's any one, like, I'm not one of those people that's like Marxism explains everything, because like it doesn't, it's not supposed to, but like it explains a lot. And it explains a lot well, I think. And so I think that like just sort of like that, sort of like longing for a way to interpret the world, like really sort of like geared me towards it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
speaking of things that Marxism doesn't quite explain.
Yeah.
As you probably saw, there was the Glenn Greenwald scandal.
I can't believe we're fucking doing this.
Which, to be fair, like, I think he has a scandal like every single week over something else he says or did, and it was over the age gap of him and his attractive Brazilian husband who he met when he was like 19.
Yeah, so Glenn Greenwald was 37, his husband was 19, and somebody was taking pot shots at him for I mean, to be clear, for having a controversial take on something else. And I don't know if you've sort of seen this, like, it has just spiraled. The age gap discourse has gone fucking insane this week.
Yeah, I've been on it, brother. Like
oh, we know you've been doing the good work.
I've been doing the work. You know, getting blocked by bisexual women. The war continues. Oh my god, yeah. So basically, the idea is like Glenn Greenwald, by dating and then marrying a hot Brazilian twink, now still hot hunk, like, was exploiting him. And I'm just like, if you've ever seen like a hot Brazilian twink with like a middle-aged nerdy American man, like, and you think that like the middle-aged nerdy American man has the power, like you've lost your fucking mind. like I was fucking 19 not too long ago. Like, those were my golden years. Like, you can get a lot, and like there's just like no understanding of like, I don't know, like, and it's like, first of all, like David Miranda was like an orphan and grew up like in the fucking favelas and shit. It's like he was probably more mature like at age 19 than whoever the bitch who was attacking Glenn Greenwald is like now at 32 or whatever. Like, I mean, he's probably seen more shit. Like, I mean, like, when you're poor, like, you grow up a lot fucking faster, you know?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, there's a sort of weird infantilizing element to all this discourse, right? Which is to say that you know, being 19 and, you know, having gone around the sun 19 times means you are inherently, you know, there's a power imbalance here, and this man must have been taking advantage of this, and this is pedophilia. I mean, it's literally the like the fucking absurd argument people are making. I mean,
yeah, well, I wasn't saying pedophilia. I was saying like evophilia, which I've like only ever heard in like introduction to psychology classes or something. And it's like, so he likes twinks. I don't know, like, what's your bitch, lady? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, it's just like,
I mean,
who's being harmed here, really? That's the question.
I mean, like, if you, I don't know, like, I feel like there's all this weird moralizing, and I guess like I can say, like, I probably wouldn't say this if I was like 36 or something, but like, I mean, I'm 24, so I feel like I'm still young enough to where I can say shit like this and not sound totally creepy. But like, I don't know, if you like are attracted to like a 16 or 17-year-old, like, I don't really give a shit. Like, don't fuck them because it's wrong, but like, I don't really care what's inside people's hearts, you know, like, as long as they aren't harming anyone. Like, I don't understand what, because there's a lot of that was like a fixation on like Glenn Greenwald is mentally deranged. He's an epiphilic or whatever. Like he's gonna, next thing you know, he's gonna be fucking 14-year-old boys. Like, that's where the discourse was fucking headed.
Yeah, that's what they were. That's what they were trying it on for size. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's like David Miranda's like fucking 40 now, and they're still married. So like
Yes.
clearly, yeah.
Well, it was just a twink pump and dump scam. Really, it just has lasted for 16 years, and 2 beautiful children, and what is it, 27 dogs or whatever?
Yeah, 24
They have
dogs.
some insane number of dogs. I mean,
Yeah,
like
they have like a dog farm.
yeah.
Yeah.
but I mean, surely the entire point of this discourse was do not listen to this man. Do not listen to this man's political ideas because there is something suspect about him. Because and then it was one of these odd moments which have happened as the gays have crossed over into like to be a gay male is to be now just like privileged. It's like privileged discourse kind of has taken us to the point where the privilege points have run out for being a gay man. So it is a way of sort of looking askance at things that seem pretty normal in the gay world. These kind of like age gaps in relationships are not unusual, and maybe some of them are really bad. I don't know, but it was interesting that it was such an easy pot shot for somebody to take, essentially as a matter of a political disagreement they're having with Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when like gay culture becomes mainstreamed, and it has become mainstream, like not just like legally through like gay marriage and stuff, but just like culturally. Like, I mean, like I've had so many straight women that like I don't even know are just like, yes, queen. I'm like, I would rather a straight man call me a faggot than a straight woman just like call me sis.
Well, that's hot.
Like,
So
or no fucking yeah, it is in certain situations hot. Like in other situations, like could win you some sympathy and maybe some money from a lawsuit. Who knows? Like the possibilities are endless. But I'm not getting anything out of a straight lady that I don't even know calling me sis. And it's just like, and it's also just like the moment that you start making like gay culture or like gay sex like PC or like holding it to the same standards as straight people, which like I mean if a 35-year-old like band wants to date like a 19-year-old, like if she's fine with that, like I don't really give a shit what straight people do either. But like I'm just saying, like I don't know, like I don't know any gay guy who's like gotten to age like 22 without fucking somebody who's like at least 40. Like it's just not like we all have daddy issues. We have to work them through so that you can move on and like become a functioning adult. Like they're ruining our outlet. But yeah, I'm not gonna say like we shouldn't have gotten gay marriage, but like we definitely we don't need Queer Eye. We don't need like I don't want any more queer representation except for you guys. Like I don't want it to be. I don't want to see Love, Hugo or Victor or whatever the fuck his name is. I don't care.
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. You'll be looking forward to our 17-hour in-depth review, deep reading of Love Victor. Then coming up any minute.
Yeah, have you guys watched it?
Yeah, we did. It was pretty bad.
I like the
I
Victor guy. He's attractive, and he's 20, and I follow him on Instagram now. But...
Wow, that's a Felix.
Hey,
you can't say he's attractive, Sam. There's an age gap.
I look like I'm a teenager. Everyone's canceled now too. I'm 25, but I look like I'm like 16 to most people. Then, so soon that's going to be cancelable. I'll be like, oh, you liked really young looking people, and that's problematic now too.
But there's so much to say, and the thing is, this is not a gay thing. I mean, this is a human society thing, that the belief that youth is beauty, right? I mean, to believe that there is some attribute that the young hold that is appealing and attractive is so pervasive, whereby like, yeah, there are then moral restrictions against what can you do about that. But given that this is like being just like fed with a shovel into the culture machine, and then for the discourse machine to sort of not go, gee, that's, maybe there's something suspect about this. It's to actually turn around and be like, Glenn Greenwald, you are personally a bad person if you married a man who is younger than you. How dare you?
Yeah.
Fuck all that.
Like I don't, like why? Like I really don't understand her motivations, because isn't she supposed to, she had a rose emoji. I don't know. It's like, what do you have against Glenn? Like Glenn is like one of the only journalists I don't hate.
Yeah, he's
I don't
one
understand.
of a few consistently readable journalists in some ways.
Yeah,
Um,
bizarre.
I don't know. It would have been some specific point of where he was not towing the party line or whatever for the weird anarcho liberals.
Well, I feel like it's also one of the few like guaranteed like attacks you can do to just kill someone's career, like the accusation of like being a pedophile or something like that. Like Milo is a great example. Like he made his really disgusting comment about like a priest and like a 14-year-old, which is bad, but like he had to say like everything else about like calling out trans people, like
you'd be horrible racially or in any
racial
other
and like
dimension.
xenophobic rhetoric, and it's like, oh, this is what gets him destroyed, not like all the other things where like he did literal harassment like at Milwaukee against like a trans student there and just brought her picture up and called her out. It's like that was not the cancel point. It was like this, and I think the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, the Michael Jackson, R. Kelly shit all playing up is kind of like made that the new Me Too because it's even more scandalizing and canceled.
Well, somebody was trying to try it on with Michael Tracy. They weren't saying he actually fucked kids, but they were saying that he seemed like the type that would fuck kids or whatever.
Michael Tracy has never fucked anyone.
No, definitely not. Categorically not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
boy.
Yeah. but I mean, that it is a new moral panic, which yet again, as most moral panics do, right? They obfuscate the actual harms, which is to say that like, just because you'd maybe say turned 21 years old, you'd met the magical age gap formula. There can be all sorts of power imbalances and exploitation and relationships, and it's spilled over into a discourse war now. That's not it's gone beyond age gap to what is it, himbos? If you're too dumb to date somebody else, I think now that's today's take.
Well, it's also destroying the agency of like adults. Like 19-year-old is an adult in U.S. and like I don't know, like why are we just cutting them? Like, oh, you can't consent to this. This is bad. You shouldn't go for older people. And it's like, well, you shouldn't go for younger people. Like you only can go up. You can't go down when you're that young. Like I'm a person who's like tends to go for like older people. And it's like my first boyfriend when I was 18 was 27, and I asked them out. It's like, oh well, if someone looked at that, they'd be like, oh, this person's gross. I'm like, yeah, but I asked them out. I dumped them. Like I had more control in this relationship than this person ever had. Like,
yeah, I mean, most of the time, like the younger, hotter person has like more control to like a certain degree, and like, but it like takes a different form, and it's like, do you really? What are they? These people, I swear to God, like mark my words, there will be an app in like at least a year that just like calculates like the power dynamics of your relationship to tell you if it's problematic or not. Like it's insane. It's like, do they have more money than you? Do they like how old are they? Like what's their body weight index? What's their IQ? Like we're gonna get into all kinds of shit, and it's just like it's so inane. Also, like sometimes like power dynamics are hot because there's always a trade-off.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, when I was like 19 and like fucking like an Audi dealer or whatever I was doing, I was like, you have money, but I'm 19 and dumb. Like, like, and you're sad and divorced. Like, like it was like,
Well, yeah, everyone's turning up to the table with something. I mean, this is the nobody's talking about hot privilege in relationships yet, but this is
it'll come.
Yeah, no, I'm sure like tomorrow. That's there's an accelerationism in this discourse, and I think you're right. I think the logical conclusion is a private app that will tell us who you're allowed to date. They're born within 1 hour. They earn within $10 of you per year, and that's it.
I think this is all just like a ploy by like rich bisexual women who don't want to fuck poor people. Like that's my conspiracy theory. They're just like I don't want to fuck poor people. I don't want to like that's what it's gonna come to. Like no, bitch. Like my grandma grew up in extreme fucking poverty. Like didn't have electricity or running water in her family's house until the 1970s. Wow. And like, I mean, my grandpa wasn't super rich, but his family like owned a Dairy Queen or something. Like she married up, like, and good for her.
Yeah.
Like she lived a good fucking life. She gardened, she made jam. Like she didn't have to like, I don't know, fucking drink water with like parasites and shit in it anymore. She got her teeth fixed. Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean the things we had to put up with before the invention of OnlyFans, right? Which, you know, is actually
right.
the correct way out of that situation now.
Yeah, they were like, my grandma should have just like fingered herself in front of a webcam instead of just like marrying a nice middle class boy.
Yeah, no, exactly. As we all should. That is all what we all must be doing. I did want to ask you a little bit about the other article you wrote for us, which I believe is called "Getting DP'd in the Age of Loneliness."
Yeah.
It has a sublime subtitle. Sorry, I should actually just have it in front of me.
The End of History and the Rise of Polyamory.
Yeah. So, first of all, I just want to say that, like, I was really surprised that that I didn't receive a backlash.
Oh, don't worry, we get the backlash for it. We're the public.
Oh, were they mad at you guys?
No,
well, like,
nobody's mad.
Stupid Poll was very happy with it. And then it got posted on the Polyamory subreddit too, and like some of those people, like most of the comments were just like, well, we've never heard this before. Like they were so nice, I almost felt bad. Like, you know, but
yeah, no, there was a lot of comments on it which were sort of like this is an interesting take.
Yeah,
I was like, Jesus, get angry, people.
Yeah, I was like, I want that. It's still like, I feel like it's still like got a pretty wide reception. So maybe we don't need outrage. Maybe I should just stop being so provocative. I don't know. But yeah, so the point was like not to criticize like open relationships precisely, because like, I mean, I'm gay. Like, I mean, like. I guess like some gay guys are monogamous and whatever, and like that's cool, but
whatever
like,
kink you're into.
Yeah, but the open relationships and gay relationships, I made this caveat, and then some people were still like, well, why didn't you talk about gay men? I'm like, I did.
Yeah,
but you know, most gay couples, at least ones that I know and ones that I've been in, it's like not necessarily sexually exclusive. You kind of work that out to a certain extent on your own, but like romantically exclusive, yes, 9 times out of 10. The difference, it's more of a critique of polyamory as a subculture, and all of this like hand wringing and its association with the left, how it's cast as a revolutionary act of like, liberation for the self or whatever. And that seems to be coming mostly from like straight people and like bisexual people, pansexual
queer
people.
Like
yeah, like not gay men,
Yeah.
or lesbians, really, honestly. But people who are somewhere in between those two
the
things.
lesbians are just not having sex, so
yeah, they're not having sex at all. No, like I used to have 2 lesbian roommates, and like the funniest thing was like, it's like, I mean, like when you live like in like a smaller sort of city, like I do in like Pensacola, like it's like all the gay guys know each other because you've all like fucked each other off Grindr, but like all the lesbians know each other because they're all in like 4-year committed monogamous relationships and then just like swap out. Like totally different dynamic. But the critique was of like the culture and how it reflects like the gig economy, in the way that like each person in this like sort of web of relationships that you've created is supposed to fulfill a specific sexual or like emotional or romantic desire, and you were supposed to provide one in return. And it's like, it's all about it's basically it's created like a consumer culture that's disguising itself as like a relationship choice. It's also like taken on like a weird identity thing. Like I don't like I've been in like open relationships. I like never identified polyamorous. Like it just seems like so insane to me. Like
well, and you sort of
think
make
that
the point, right, that there are like conservatives, or like cultural conservatives are in many of these relationship structures, but they have not necessarily built an identity category around it.
Yeah. I mean, like suburban wife swappers or like whatever. Like they're not like pretending to be revolutionaries. They're not adopting this identity. Like they're just like pervy people who want to fuck. And like I respect that a lot more than like being self-righteous. Like it's okay to be a pervert. It's not okay to be preachy. Yeah, everyone who's listening to this should read the article because I'm so much more articulate in writing.
This is all a giant lead here. It was just for lead into reading.
Well, I think it's so important to point out like the open relationship style of gay relationships, which is pretty normal and like probably more of the cities where it's fine. They never make an identity of like, oh, I'm an open relationship person versus a closed versus a poly identity becomes an identity used to like, for one, attack like monogamy. I've seen people like, oh, monogamy is actually horrible and patriarchal and it's often destroy the family rhetoric in many cases. And also treats it as a revolutionary act versus an outcome of like the economy, the like political economy, because like nuclear family emerged to pass on property, and now it's like, well, now we're all this our own little marketing scheme, and we're all gonna have different connections and trade-offs and stuff if people who we don't view as people anymore, instead they're just a face on Grindr or Tinder. I don't know what are the other apps, Scruff, shit like that.
Yeah, well, people are so busy. Like, I mean, a lot of like working class people, like they're so busy just like working. Like we don't have like normal hours of operation anymore, if that makes sense. Like if you think about like 40 years ago, like there was like, this is the time of day where people work. This is the time of day where people like go out to bars and meet people. Like that doesn't exist anymore. And so like it's like created like a situation where it's like someone who feels like they have needs that need to be fulfilled. They're like, oh well, I've got to find other people. I've got to do all this and all that. I focus a lot on like the emotional sort of aspects of it, because like that's the thing that I feel like makes the sort of polyamory culture unique, is that it's one about like constant communication, talking about how you feel, what you need, what whatever, like negotiation. It's all about just like making rules. They're like, we don't want any rules, relationship anarchy, but then we're going to make all the rules. It's like, I thought you said you didn't want any rules. Like, and again, like that is totally different than just like the gay culture of like, my boyfriend's out of town, time to suck some dick. Like, like, and like never speak of it, or like, have a threesome off Grindr and then never talk to this person ever again. Like, and I guess like that's probably dehumanizing and like not healthy in its own way. But I almost feel like casual sex is more healthy than just trying to form deep, meaningful, romantic relationships with multiple people. Like you can only stretch yourself so far, and like it is like it's almost like this weird PMC like obsession with like self-improvement and self-help and all this and all that, where they're just like, this will make me a better me if I have two boyfriends. And it's like, no, it's not. Like you're still going to be the same fucking person. You're just going to be like trying to juggle all this shit. And it does seem to be like a sort of more like elite thing. Like I have friends who are like polyamorous, and they just always seem to have so much drama in their lives. And
well, I think also like the term relationship anarchy, which I'll have to admit when I was younger, was like, oh, it's such a cool concept. Like, oh, all relationships will be equal to you. Like your dating and your hookups and your friends are all equal. But that relies on an unlimited amount of time and energy. And it's like completely rejecting the necessary hierarchy of like human relationships. Like I feel like the issue with polyamory, once it expands to like endless new romantic and sexual relationships, is like, who has time for that? Working people who are working like 3 jobs don't have time to have multiple relationships. But people in like, I don't know, it emerged in Berkeley, which is like the least surprising thing of like polyamory. Is like, oh, of course it's there. It's like some well-off children in like one of like the top schools in the US.
Another thing that I have a problem with is like, not only do they make it like sort of an identity, like that can be stacked on to your like POC or like queer, whatever sort of thing, but also like, I remember like this Thanksgiving, I was like seeing all these posts that were just like, coming out to your family. My heart goes out to all these people who, could only bring 2 of their boyfriends instead of all 3 to Thanksgiving or whatever. And I'm just like, what? Like, I can't, bitch, shut the fuck up. Like, I still can't even like bring my one boyfriend home for Thanksgiving. I don't want to hear your shit. But yeah, I feel like it is like very gross, like what these people are doing, because they're making it seem like it's like something that like, just born this way. And it's like, no, like this is, it's a choice. Like it's a relationship choice. Like stop pretending like it's a political operation or like, a biological, attribute or something.
So one of the critiques perhaps I did hear in terms of the article was around some of the elements of like this commodification is not something that is sort of perhaps unique even to what you might consider sort of like very sort of modern conceptions of like a strict poly identity. And I am a poly person, but actually to say that like this sort of interpersonal stuff applies to monogamy as well now, right? Where people sort of date off apps or whatever from a catalog, or they're sort of searching for Mr. Right as a consumer product, as buy it as a commodity. And so the question is sort of is this simply an extension then, or like in terms of like, well, I can catalog shop and my basket has room for multiple things that reflect my personal brand ambitions, or do you think it is something kind of unique going on here?
Well, I mean, that's a valid criticism. That definitely is true with the apps and all of that. But I think that like what makes polyamory unique is that typically if you're looking for one person, you're looking for all of the things that you want in one person, which of course you're never going to find. And so what you actually have to do is just like form a relationship. Like you give things up, you just accept that like, he's not gonna like, subscribe to my DeviantArt page or whatever like it is that you want.
The most important things.
Yeah, or he's not gonna like, be like the best listener or like whatever, but I can deal with all of the other things because I love them. And with polyamory, it's kind of not like that, because if something like doesn't, or if somebody's not fulfilling a specific need, you just go get another thing. It's like, how do I put this? It's like, instead of just like sort of like going and like buying one thing, you're buying multiple things to fulfill like certain niche needs. And I feel like that's more consumerist than just like buying one thing that you need. Like there's a difference between like having one good solid winter coat and just like buying out the entire like H&M.
Yeah. Well, I feel like
If that makes sense.
I feel like the polyamory kind of rhetoric you're talking about of like, oh, you never find the person who has everything, so you have to find a bunch of people to get all of those things, is kind of indicative of this like new leftist culture where it's like, oh, if you have a small thing wrong about your political project or like thought process, you're instantly bad and no good for me. And it's making you unwilling to form solidarity or compromise with people who might have small differences that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, oh, you agree on 99% of stuff, but the 1% is like the percent that you're like, oh, I'm going to cut ties with you because you don't want to, I don't know, invade Venezuela or some shit like that. It's like, it's just kind of letting the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're toxic, which is a word that I saw a lot when I was like being a psychopath and like going through the polyamory subreddit looking for reposts of my article. And then just like my boyfriend talking me down from like responding to like some of the comments that were angry. He was like, "That's so shameful. Don't do that."
He's a good one. That's a keeper.
You're right.
That's a keeper in the market.
In the marketplace of twinks. But yeah, but yeah, it is almost like kind of dehumanizing in a little bit because it's like they don't even treat you like you're not even treating people as like as I mean, they do talk about like, oh, negotiation, blah blah blah, but it's like it is one like treating just like normal human behavior as labor, which I really hate.
Mm-hmm.
It gets into the Marxist just like emotional labor. I'm like, that's just being nice to people. Like we don't have to do that shit. It's like, you know, if someone is doing something that you don't like or that it's quote unquote toxic, instead of just like getting over it or working through it or, you know, trying to like help them change or whatever, you're just like, oh, well, I'll find somebody else that fits this need. Like that like, you know, if you're not going to respond to my like weepy text message at 3 a.m., you're toxic and you don't care about me, so I'm going to find somebody else who will or whatever.
So I mean, you know, I think people should definitely read the article because it is a provocation in many ways, and I think I like the fact that you close in it, and I'm not really spoiling anything to say. Your political attitude here is not that of a classic social conservative who would say, you know, we must outlaw this, right? It's actually a like, I don't give a shit if you do this or not. I hope you know, I hope you find your happiness, but it's not a revolutionary act.
Yeah, I think the original inline was like, I don't give a fuck what you do, and then you guys were like, try harder, River. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't give a fuck what you do. I like, because I think that it's inevitable. Like, I mean, I'm not like a nihilist or whatever, and like, it's not even that I think polyamory is all that bad. I just think that it's like such a reflection of like the economy that we live in, and like the atomization, and like, you know, the fact that we treat everyone in our society like merely as like a producer. And I feel like that's gross, but like getting rid of polyamory isn't going to change that. Yeah. Like it's like a dehumanizing system that creates those conditions that create something like the polyamory subculture on Twitter.
So changing topics a little bit, as you know, it's Pride, which I know we're all so sad about not happening this year.
Oh no!
But always, every year, there's tons of topics about children at Pride, and I know you said you had some thoughts when you talked before the podcast, and I want to know what your thoughts are on children at Pride.
Yeah, leave those snot-nosed cunts at home. Like, there's no... What? No, don't bring your fucking kids to Pride. Like, I don't know. I just see all this shit. People are like, oh, well, like, our gay forefathers and mothers fought so hard for, like, freedom. I'm like, yeah, for the freedom to, like, wear a fucking Speedo and do poppers in front of a Walgreens. Like, not... like, what are you talking... Like, no. fucking no. Don't take your kids to Pride. Don't. I saw somebody who was like, I was so embarrassed because I took my parents to Pride. I was like, you took your parents. What a fucking loser! Don't take your
why were
parents
you
to Pride.
doing this?
Get some friends. Like,
my parents are like genuinely cool. I have never once even been tempted to take them to Pride. I've never even thought that was a good idea. I would never.
No.
What the fuck? They would never ask because they're cool. If your parents
No,
want to
I
go to
mean-
Pride with you, fuck them. Like you should rebel against your parents.
Yeah, leave them at home. Like, in my city, we have like 2 prides basically. There's like one that we have in June that is like sort of, I guess, like more like, I guess, like family friendly or whatever. Like you just have like little vendors. It's in like a park downtown. They have like people speak and they have like musicians and stuff like that. And like I don't even think that you can have alcohol because of like open container law. So it's like pretty tame. But then you have Memorial Day weekend, which is like a Pensacola specific thing that like started before like Stonewall. It was just like it was just gay dude, like, cause Pensacola Beach, which is like a barrier island, like in front, below Pensacola, I guess. Like I'm trying to think of how maps look. Basically you go over a bridge and like now it's like a bunch of like condos and shit. But like back in like the 1950s when it started, it was just like the woods and the beach, and like gays from all over the South would just like come there on Memorial Day weekend to suck and fuck the days away. And like we still have like Memorial Day weekend and it's pretty like, you know, racy. And like you shouldn't fucking bring your kids there. But also like we should be able to do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think
I don't know. They're like, it makes gay people look bad. I'm like, well, straight people can start doing this shit as soon as they fucking want to. Like, nobody's stopping them.
well, I hold like a split of like, I don't know, high schoolers going to Pride is different than like bringing your 3-year-old to Pride. I just think, cause like when you're in high school, you know your sexuality to a certain extent, and like you have like you at least know what like sex and sexuality means, because like I don't know, you're actually like developing all of that, versus like really young children where I don't think in any other context it'd be appropriate, even like the most tame ones like San Francisco, like bringing your children to a festival where everyone's like shit-faced and like half naked and doing like drugs and stuff isn't probably the place I'd want to take them. That's not even like the most crazy ones, not the ones where like people are having sex outside or like just like dildos and shit everywhere. And it's like, keep some innocence for the children left. Like,
see, I think I part ways a little bit, only that I always like to tell a story about I when I first moved to Denmark, there was a suburban shopping mall with a sex shop with open windows and like at child eyes height. There'd just be a display of like dildos and porn or whatever. And this was just like literally in like, you know, what would be like a crappy Westfield mall or whatever. Just completely normal next to, you know, a bookstore and whatever the fuck else. And, you know, I do think there is a sort of culturally contingent notion about like, are you obligated to explain things to your children? Are you like, do your children know what the fuck they're seeing? Probably not. I don't know.
yeah.
And I just get suspicious of anything that looks like a moral panic. I don't want the entire world to have not Danish shopping mall aesthetics, but like American shopping mall aesthetics. I don't think the entire world should have all the rough edges taken off it. And I don't think every fucking corner should be child-proofed. And this is, you know, there's elements within the gay world who definitely want this. They want a version of homosexuality that is bled of sexuality. It's fucking, we're all like, you know, Kendalls without genitalia, and we just sort of like put on the rainbow, the cute rainbow flag gear that we bought from H&M, and then we're done. That was Pride. Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah, this is like, so I think of like the bring your kids to Pride discourse as like divided in between like 2 camps. On like, I mean, very clearly on like one side, it's like, I don't know, like middle-class bisexual women with kids who are just like, I want to go to Pride, but like I have a 4-year-old, and it's like, sorry, bitch. Like, and then also like Pete Buttigieg, and his ilk, just that type of like gay guy who's, I don't know, like an Episcopalian or something, and like I don't know, like is living out like a Leave It to Beaver like type of with sodomy lifestyle. I don't know, like I don't understand these people, but just like the people who are like, we need to mainstream gay culture, like they fucking won.
Yep.
And like, and then on the other side is just like Grinder.
Right,
but-
which is not the other side of that argument, though, right? I mean, to the extent that like the people who are sort of the Pete Buttigieg, like I would like essentially the American 1950s heterosexual ideal contrasted against like completely commodified, like you are a penis for hire effectively, and like that's your that's your value in the marketplace is reduced to that. I mean, there's another version of this which is simply like we don't kind of give a fuck what you do, right? There's what is permitted in this space is actually a kind of like, if you're pursuing it hedonistically, if that's what brings you to this, then like cool, because there's very other few spaces where that's permitted in life.
Well, there's like a hatred of hedonism on the left, which
it's all anhedonic.
It's awful. It's very hard to be like a gay leftist sometimes because it's like, like we want to be decadent, like
oh, absolutely.
We think it's bad, but like, when straight people do it, but like, because they don't do it well, but like, like, I don't know, like I love me some decadence. Sometimes I want to get shit-faced in public, and I don't know, buy nice things or whatever. I don't know, like I'm still a shallow faggot, like I mean, I'm a Marxist, but like, a tiger can't change its stripes, baby.
Well, I feel like it's kind of, I think Pride's mostly devoid of like any of its historical meaning at this point, where it's more just like a celebration versus like a revolutionary act or celebration, like, which we all know and are willing to admit, I'd assume. But I feel like
we've moved on.
It's our Mardi Gras. It's like our version of Mardi Gras. And like, straight people don't bring their kids to Mardi Gras, so don't bring them to our Mardi Gras. Like, if you're gonna come to our
they bring their kids
to Mardi Gras.
I live on the Gulf Coast. They bring their fucking kids. Yeah,
right. But I don't have to read breathless thought pieces about the dangers of it.
Yeah, you have to change Mardi Gras for the children. It's like, don't bring your children. Like, but Pride gets that, where it's like, oh, we need to change Pride for the children. And it's like, you're the one who's bringing them. We don't want them here. Like, there's probably certain things that are fine to have children, like, I don't know, the parade or something. But like the parties and like festivals, like, don't bring them there. They're gonna see people doing like bumps of like coke and like G and like girls with like their breasts out and shit. Like, that's just
What child has ever seen a bare breast? Where would they see one of those?
Nowhere. We've banned breastfeeding. Didn't you know?
Yeah, and like I think it should just be like a party.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, what is there left to be done? Like, I mean, for the most part, like, gay people, like, I mean, trans people still have like some issues, definitely, with just like general like societal acceptance and so forth and so on. But like, for the most part, like, LGBTQ people are more or less accepted in societies, at least the places that are having fucking gay pride parades. Like, where I grew up, where there's no fucking pride there. Like, like, I had to leave because I didn't want to be the only like. I mean, we already had a town gay, so like I would have had to wait around for him to die.
Oh yeah,
and like, or like step on his turf and make a like competing beauty shop, and I didn't want to do that. He's a stand-up guy, so like I had to get out of there. But like, there's no more turf left. Like, this just fucking party. Like, queer politics are dead. Like, long live the
Yeah.
class war.
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
like all the issues left that like severely impact like the LGBT community and like the working class, because rich people have all the things they want in the world, like are never gonna
Yeah.
get taken on by Pride, where it's funded by Google and like or Raytheon and shit. So it's like the people who think you can just make it like decommodified and like all this shit, it's like it's so past that point. Like just treat us I treat it as a party, like you said. Like it's nothing else. Like don't expect to be like, oh, we're gonna fight for housing and blah blah blah. And it's like none of these people care about that.
No, and it might as well at least be a good party. And what's the one way to guarantee a party is shit? It's have a bunch of kids there. Ruin my fucking gay party.
Yeah, and it's like we should fight for housing, but like I don't need to do that while I'm like drinking like a vodka soda and huffing on poppers. Like we can do that another day.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and like I'm not just gonna fight for housing for gay people. Like
Exactly.
if anything, like, you know, like if you're a gay man, like, I mean, I've been broke as shit before and in some like pretty precarious situations, but like if I was like a single mother, like I'd be fucking dead. Like the decisions that I've made and like those situations that I found myself in, like being on my own since I was like 18, like, are you kidding? Like, I don't know. I just find a lot of the queer discourse to be very, where they're like, we need to fight for queer housing and queer healthcare. It's like, let's just fight for housing and healthcare for everybody. And then, you know,
Yeah.
Have a bitchin' party.
like, I don't, yeah, I was like, I don't think that they're going to be like, but not gay people, like, unless we do go totally, like, I don't know, fash or whatever.
The
like
Strasserites win.
Fash. Yeah, if the Strasserites win, then fine, I'll go to your housing for gay dudes protest or whatever. But like until that happens, and stop calling us Strasserites because we're not, okay?
Speak for yourself. No, we're really not.
No, I made a post about something like explaining Strasserism to my boyfriend, and then like 3 actual Strasserites follow me. I had to block them. It was so awkward.
Well, that's the problem. Is every time I'm like, this is not a credible political movement. These people don't fucking exist. And somebody proves me wrong by being the one Strasserite on the internet. I'm like, the fuck did you come from?
Well, the guy's profile was like in Cyrillic. I had to translate everything. I was like, you know, the Strasserites were like not fans of the Slavs, my friend. Like,
doing race science to own the Strasserites. And sort of really doing the work out there. That's about all the time we have. River, we wanted to make sure people got the chance. Well, for one, we will again plug twinkrev.com to go and read your 2 wonderful articles. But also, where do people find you? What more material can we plug for you here?
You can follow me on Twitter at Lefty Otter or on Instagram at Marxist Pasta Vessel. I don't know what happened. I got drunk and I woke up and that was my Instagram handle. I don't know what happened. I could have unionized an Olive Garden. Anything could have happened. So so follow me on there. I'm sure I'll write another article for Twink Rev at some point in the future. So
you better. Cool. And everyone, remember, check the Patreon so that we can keep paying for wonderful content like Rivers and many other things that shall provoke and that various subreddits can hate on in the most polite way possible.
That's it, guys. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.